Okay, we'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll get
started. So what do I need to do to start sharing and all?
You want to try that? So there should be a share screen at the bottom of your screen. So you hit share.
Okay, and then
you pick the screen, but then you also have to hit the share button.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay. And how do I then stop sharing?
Give it a couple of minutes.
So what do I need to do to start
sharing? Hold on, I'm hearing myself. You want to try that? So there should be a share screen at the bottom of your screen. So you hit share. Okay, that will work. Okay. So did you figure it out?
Yep, figured it out.
Okay, cool. All right, well, it's 12 o'clock, we'll get started. So hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Tech Thursday webinar. We are all glad to have you all in this session today. Today's session is going to be about Microsoft Teams in a project management world. And we have an awesome speaker today. I'm very excited to have him, Russ Basuria. So let me move forward. All right. So just a quick few ground housekeeping rules. The Tech Thursday webinars are on every Thursday of the month, every third Thursday of the month. And we focus on project management tools and techniques, very specifically skills that you can actually take it and use it on a day-to-day basis. We will provide a PDU code towards the end of the presentation. And if you want to ask a question, Russ will take logical pauses in between the presentation. So put your questions in the chat, and then we can definitely ask those questions and have them answered. And then we're also recording this webinar. So this will be available on our YouTube channel, the PMI Northeast Ohio Chapter's YouTube channel. With that, you will get a link for after this presentation. And then finally, there is a survey that that pops up right after this presentation. So please fill it out. It is really, really useful for us in modeling future presentations and making sure we are giving you the content that you really want to hear. Okay. So with that, let me introduce Russ. So Russ is a 20-year plus veteran in this field of collaboration and project management. So he has worked with several multinational companies and helped them deploy SharePoint, and he has been a Microsoft Teams evangelist ever since it has been released. He runs a lot of his own online days about Teams, several webinars with productivity tips and tricks. We shared some of those with you in our previous newsletters. So I'm very excited to have him here. With that, Russ, please take over.
Hey, Prasanna, thank you so much for having me. I greatly appreciate it. I am very excited to be here with you today. But most of all, I want to thank you for taking your time to join me for a discussion on Teams. And I'm going to break down our presentation today is going to be broken down into 3 separate areas that I'm going to cover. So let me share my slides out here with you and we'll get started. Okay. All right, so hopefully everybody is able to see that at this point. So
yeah, very good.
Excellent. Okay. Slides aren't advancing with click. Anyway, as Prasanna mentioned, I've been around this collaboration environment better part of 25 years now at this point. And it's kind of scary because I first got started building a document management system using Windows 3.1 and Office 3.1. I don't even remember what the number was now at this point. But doing a document publishing system and putting it out and putting up an Apache web server to share PDFs of the Word documents with companies in Japan and Israel. Anyway, we've come such a long way since then. And, I was fortunate enough to be part of the initial product development teams with Microsoft from a testing perspective. So I really got access to a lot of the stuff that they were working on with what was Project ToDo at that point, and eventually became SharePoint 2001. So I've been through the ride of SharePoint, and through the craziness that went through from like 2007 through 2011 timeframe. And, then in a way I got a little bored with SharePoint. It was, kind of the same stuff coming out and little enhancements here and there, nice stuff always. But I was really sort of thinking about what's next in terms of collaboration. And when I had the opportunity to get involved with Microsoft Teams, I jumped at the opportunity because to me, when I see Teams, I see that digital workplace that has been talked about since 99 at least. And, the 2000 SharePoint 2001 had a concept digital dashboard in it that, in my opinion, was never really realized. But when you put the capabilities that SharePoint brings with Teams and all the other applications and power of the Microsoft 365 platform together, I think we finally hit a point with the release of Teams that where we really do have the opportunity to bring that digital dashboard for everyone. And, anyway, as you can see, I've kind of been around and done a lot of things and talked a lot, and I'm not going to, anyway, we've all been working from home for a while now. So Prasanna was kind enough to mention our Teams Day Online event. So just to kind of give you a heads up a little more with that, website is modernworkplacesummits.com. It is going to be September 30th and October 1st. We have 111 speakers, I believe it is, in total at this point. We have 12 speakers from Microsoft. We have about 70 MVPs speaking and a bunch of community MVPs that are going to, community speakers that are going to bring their expert knowledge to everyone. So this event has really a Teams theme to it, but it also has a first line worker aspect because there's so many people like doctors, nurses, teachers, policemen, mentioned nurses, that are first line workers that we're really looking to reach out and help educate them about how they can use Teams. So there's 17 tracks that are running across the event. Goes through 3 time zones and 75 plus countries that are registered at this point already. And you can register either through the modernworkplacesummits.com website or just go directly to the teamsdayonline.com.eventbrite.com and get registered there. So I mentioned that we're really breaking the presentation down into 3 areas today. It's going to be my top productivity tips for Teams, and then we'll touch on the planner and Teams for enhanced collaboration, and then we'll get specifically into organizing projects and teams, and how to know what the setup is, when to set up a new team versus when to use a channel. And I think there's a bunch of other tips that are as part of that. So that's, and then finally, we'll end with Q&A. So I mentioned the hub for teamwork with Microsoft Teams now. So these are all the different areas that have evolved into the hub for teamwork. So it covers everything from meetings, video, apps, project management, task management, and just document management, all of these capabilities are now there for your team to work, and it's all surfaced up through Teams. And that's about the best way that I can explain what Teams is. It basically surfaces up capabilities from the rest of the Microsoft 365 platform. So whether it's something that's coming out of Planner or ToDo or Outlook, it takes that information and surfaces it up into a single unified interface that users can go in and see what they need to work on that day. So it's a comprehensive solution. So in terms of the tips, I'm going to just kind of go through 7 to start with and cover each of these here. So the first one I want to talk about is, and I include this in here, is because people have commented that they don't like the look and feel of Teams. And Teams is really can be made whatever you want it to do. And one of the first things that I recommend companies do when they set up a new team or do it as part of a template is to map a tab in that team to the SharePoint site collection that supports all the file and content management for that team. And with that, that gives you a more user-friendly interface that you can then surface up things like news, announcements, links, other jumping off points to other areas of your organization that are related to that team. So it helps give that overall view again for the different types of content. So to just do that, I'll show you the process for creating an actual tab to map to that SharePoint site collection. But in short, the easiest thing is to go into your Files tab, do Open in SharePoint, and then copy the root URL for the site collection from there and paste it into a website tab. You'll create a new app for the website and paste in the URL for it and save it, and it'll show up that site. So take use of that. The other thing that comes up very often is that people want to create teams when they have a specific group to discuss things with. And they end up taking a group and splitting it out into multiple teams when really all they need to do is tag the individuals that they want to speak to and apply that tag to those individuals. And it gives you the capability to group those members. So from that point, you can do things like mention them. You can, you can just create chats and communicate with them, different individuals within that group. So think of it in a lot of ways. Think of it as a distribution list. It has a lot of similarities to it in that it gives you a grouping of people inside of teams. And in this case, we're going to create one for sales and put in a group of members from the sales team into and apply a tag to each of those. That way, when I jump over to chat, I can then I can, instead of naming each of those individuals and trying to say, okay, so who are all the ones that I need to talk to, especially if you got 14, 15 or more people, you've already got a tag that's a logical grouping of who those individuals are, so that when you go into your chat right in the to line, you can just put the name of the group, so sales, or the tag that you're using, sales team or sales managers, and automatically start chatting with them. And that you have the capability inside of Teams to apply that in different ways for communications. So it has the benefit of limiting the number of teams that you need, as well as the number of channels that you need. Because the other way I see people do that is they will often create a private channel just to speak with those individuals. And there's no need to do that. You can do that with just a tag. So Within this, we just went through the process of actually creating the tag itself. We're going to jump and open up a new chat up at the top here. And enter in that sales team. And you'll see that the two groups that come up are sales managers and sales team, because I've applied both of those. I have two tags on this particular site. Now, as soon as I did that sales team, you saw all the individuals that came up. So I can enter my chat and they'll all get that message, and you can have that conversation with them. So it's a great way to get started with tags in Teams. So the other thing is, in terms of creating those tags, you're going to go under Manage Team, and on here, this is the best way to really apply a tag, because you get your whole list of members, and then by just scrolling down the screen here, you can quickly see what tags have already been applied to members of your group. But right from here, you can quickly just select to add them in and assign a tag to them right from this interface. So it makes it quick and easy to be able to do. If you need to add both of them, you can add both of them here and just apply it. And then you can use those tags.
Russ, there is a question. Can any team member add tags, or is it permission controlled?
I believe anybody can add tags. Anybody that's part of a team can tag a group. So that's the process for creating that. The other thing that we run into all the time is people tell us that they can't find their content. So Teams uses what's called contextual searching. And the reason a lot of times people don't find what they're looking for is because they're literally just doing a keyword search and that's it. Well, contextual searching includes what's called attribute level searching. And there is a group of attributes that apply for messages, as well as another group that applies for your files. Now, some of them also overlap, but what you're going to do is you basically go in and for messages, in this case, you can just say attachment name and specify the keyword. So think about it as if you're searching like a column in a spreadsheet, and you're limiting it to just that one area. So each attribute is limiting that search. So it makes your search results, it restricts your search results so that you're not getting a bunch of noise back and you're really getting a more focused set of search results returned. So you can use, I forget the number. There's a huge number of these attributes that are available, but they include things like attachment names and the from field and the to field, and it has attachment and importance level and is read. You can search by the subject, the type of message that it is, and as well as the size of the message. So it gives you a much quicker way of refining your search results and getting to the content that you're looking for. So with files, you can see we actually get a few more now, and we also get author, file name, last modified, and title. And there's more than that also. But the other thing is, at this point, you can also you can use and/ors in your search. So you have a Boolean search capability. So you can start tying these different attributes together to get your search results more and more refined as you need to. So, just to take a look at that, if you go up the top here and you just type the attachment names attribute and the value, you'll see the results that'll come back on the left-hand side, and you can see up at the top, it's just on the top left, it's indicated that it's just messages that it's searching. But then you can see where it found the attachment on this message that matched Contoso, as well as the other one. So it took a large set of results and quickly narrowed it down to just the two messages that had attachments, and the name of the attachment included Contoso. So there's a quick way of getting to your results. Now I can add from Alex in here, and that'll reduce this further refine the search results down to just a single item that includes both of those variables. So, or both of those attributes. So as I mentioned, there's a large number of these different attributes that are available that you can start using. And as you start changing them, so the author isn't available for a message. It's only valid for files. So when you saw there, I typed author is Megan, nothing came back in my messages. But as soon as I clicked the files tab, then I started getting search results back again. So, you know, those items across the top there, messages, people, and files, think of those as scopes, or, you know, if you're familiar with using SharePoint scopes, any type of search scopes, it allows you to, again, kind of narrow the content that you're searching. So you in this example, I've got the three of them. I've got the author, the file name, as well as the last modified date, and it's, you know, using you know, greater than, less than as part of that query. So you can really get pretty, you have a lot of control over your search capabilities by doing that. So the point is to really learn what those attributes are and how to use them, and you'll find you're able to get a lot more information back that's, you know, instead of getting a bunch of noise back, you'll get the information back that matches what you're looking for quicker. So along with that, the other just tip is, I mentioned how people kind of like the user feel that SharePoint has to it, the look and feel to it, the user experience. So SharePoint Search also has additional capabilities in it to filter your content and refine your content, as well as pull from other types of data sources. So I always like to pull into my general channel, create a SharePoint Search tab. And when you do that, you have the capability to specify like a base query. You add a keyword to it, and I'll show you that. And when you do that, so you can basically narrow your search results down to just the content that is in the team that you're searching with us. So if you click that plus sign at the top, you select the website tab from there, you can name the tab, and then you enter the URL. And right there, you can see the URL says Q equals sales. Well, that's the query. That's what you're actually querying for. And that can be, you know, you can have other keywords that apply in that to help you narrow down what your initial set of results are, so that when somebody clicks on the tab, they get a much better user experience from the search results than they do with Teams itself. And I've already, because I plugged in this case, I'm using a sales team. So my keyword was sales, and I've already narrowed my search results back that the user sees when they click that tab. From that point forward, now I can go in and I can use filtering and all on the search within this page. And I'll show you that in a second. But I'm just, at this stage, I'm just kind of walking through the page itself. So you see all the different types of content. You get the actual document previews within here. So if you click on that, you get the bigger look of it, but then you can actually drill down to it right inside of this. And this is all SharePoint functionality that now we're just surfacing up through Teams. So, you know, you can leverage that functionality inside of Teams and give your users a good experience with it. Now, here's the filters. Now, on this one, I only have the when it was searched by, sorry, I think it was when the date was on it and when it was last modified. So was it, today, the last 7 days, 30 days? But you can use that to further refine those search results. And as you go across those tabs there that are scopes, your results change. So now I'm seeing, I was seeing salespeople. Now I'm seeing news that's relevant to the sales group. And you can continue to use those refiners to narrow your search results and all. So it's something that I found that a lot of customers have said to me is very helpful to them in terms of helping them find their information, and adds another aspect to Teams. So take a look at that. So reordering your teams, and there's a couple of things around this, and I'm going to touch on probably multiple times in the presentation, but too often when I go into companies, especially big companies, people they don't even bother to hide any of their teams. Basically, if they're a member of it, they'll have that in their the list of teams on the left-hand side. And, you can see people for 30, 35 teams that are in that list. And then they say, it's too much for me to keep track of. So one of the things that I usually recommend is, one, don't show all of your teams. Hide ones. You can stay a member of them. You'll still get notifications about things going on in those. But if they're not high priority projects for you, don't have them all listed there. Hide those. And that can be done just off of the ellipsis, and basically just by saying show or hide. But as part of that, once you hide the ones that you don't need to be in all of the time, and you get down to a set, I usually try and keep between 3 and 5 teams showing at max. Sometimes I'll get a little more than that, but I really focus on the projects that my clients are most active in. And, so that's where I really put my attention. And so I try and stay to 3 to 5 actual teams listed there. And then based on what I have going on, I drag and drop them based on the priority. So if I have a deadline coming up for a client that I need to make sure I hit, I have that set as my top team in my list, or whatever is driving my priorities for that project. And that's on that left-hand side there, all you have to do is basically do a long click on your team and drag it up or down to arrange the order of it. So that is really that tip there, is that I keep them in the order of priority form for the work that I'm doing. And I only keep 3 to 5 that are visible. And as you can see here, I'm just dragging it up. But you can move them around based on the priority of the teams that you're working on. So don't have them all visible, and keep them in a priority order. And very often for me, that changes on a daily basis. And that's fine. It's real quick to be able to drag and drop teams and move them around. And then just as a note, down at the left on the bottom there, you can see that the link there for hidden teams. So, my teams are any of the teams that I did decide to hide, I have quick access to them if I need to, and they will still show up in like any notifications that appear like on my activity. If anybody mentions me or anything like that, that all shows up there in the left rail. The next one is, it's always a surprise to me in that, and sometimes there's good reason behind it, but people think of Teams and chat as intra-company, and they'll communicate all the time with their other internals, but they don't think about using it with their business partners or customers. And for some companies, they disable that level of access from the beginning, but it's actually enabled by default. So if your company hasn't disabled it, you should be able to go in and just send me a message because we're both on the Microsoft 365 platform. So as long as both companies are on the platform, you should be able to do that unless one of the companies has turned it off. The other thing is if you have the Skype interop on, if you have somebody that's on Skype, you can message them also. So all that's involved with that is to basically go up, enter the user that you want to send to. So the email it's already showing up because I sent the message before, but I can select it and just send a message. So real quick, I got that message, so I'll respond back to it. And if it's not hidden behind the bottom here, there it goes. So replying back to Megan. So the benefit is just with the real-time communication is it accelerates the way you're able to do business. And when it comes to business partners and customers and tying them and improving the collaboration with your employees, it's something that companies don't use enough of. People don't use it enough. And it's something that I really try and evangelize with them to make sure they know those capabilities are there and to use that when possible versus using email. And just on that note, so many companies that I've seen that once they get started with Teams and they start tying it into their business processes, the level of usage of email drops significantly and people just start adopting Teams. I mean, that's one of the things that I've really liked about it is that when people actually do start using it, they very quickly go away from email and start using Teams. So the last is regarding planner tasks. Now we're going to take a look at this in more depth, but the reason I had this here is because I go into companies and I will see that they are using inside of they'll create a team and they'll create a planner for that and they'll pin it as a tab into that team and they have access to everything in there. But then they start, if they have 5 teams they're working on and each of them has a planner, they'll go into the team and go to the planner, into the team and go to the planner to basically access that. Whereas if you take planner and pin it to your left rail, now you can see the tasks, all of your tasks across all of the planner boards that you have, but you'll also see tasks from ToDo in there. You'll see tasks from, and this is actually a ToDo functionality, but if you have emails that were flagged inside of Outlook and there's a capability inside of ToDo to basically aggregate that into the views. So essentially at that point, if you're using this option on the left-hand side here to access your planner, you get your Outlook, your flagged Outlook emails, you get any to-dos that were created, you get tasks from your planner board, all surfaced up into a single view. So again, it's kind of driving towards that digital dashboard and what's everything that I need to work on that I need to be able to prioritize, and this screen gives it to you. So, you can see right there across the top, you've got, a list of my tasks. You've got activity, you got, recent items and all that are, that are there in that view. So different ways of looking at it. So take a look at that. All right. So Prasanna, any questions so far? That's the end of the first section.
So the only other question was, will Teams and Skype be merging because Skype works externally today?
Not merging. Skype is going away and there is a Skype interop capability to allow users that are on Teams to send messages to people or companies that are on Skype. But you have to move off of Skype onto Teams. And I believe end of life date for Skype is, I'm going to say June 30th, 2021. So at this point, you have less than a year to get off of Skype.
Okay. The second question was, is Planner automatically available to be added? How do you add it to the left side?
Okay, so it is automatically available there. And you basically go to, let me see, you go to the ellipse on that left-hand side, and at the bottom of the left rail, select that ellipse. It's going to pop up a box, and we'll probably see this in one of the other screenshots that I have. It'll give you access to all of your apps that are available there. You can also search for other apps from in there. Usually it's right on that first screen that comes up. You just select it and it automatically add it to the left rail.
Okay. One other question. So this end of life for Skype, are you talking about the traditional Skype or the Skype for Business?
Skype for Business. I'm not sure about the Skype for Consumer version, but I suspect that's going the same way, but I don't know the specific dates around it.
Okay. One more. Teams is free right now for non-licensed users. Do you know if there are any limitations to the free version?
There are limitations to it. I can't give you a list of what they are, but there are definitely limitations to it.
Okay. All right. That's all we have right now.
Okay. All right. So the next section, I want to really kind of start talking about what's in Teams today and kind of give you an overview of some of the functionality that's coming in the near future regarding project management. And the two key pieces that are really there today are the planner boards as Planner and ToDo. Now, the third one that I have here on the screen in the top right is Teams, but it's really referring to tasks in Teams, which is something that's coming. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. So yes, we can view ToDo and we can view planner items inside of Teams today. And then the last one here, this new icon that maybe not many of you have seen before it's called Microsoft Lists. And Microsoft Lists is the evolution of SharePoint lists. So it's the next version of SharePoint lists essentially. And it has a much better view for it. And there's some nice templates that are available that I'll show you in a second. But when it comes down to these different items here, you kind of think about the difference between them is really that two of them, specifically Planner and ToDo, is the storage of it's how tasks are stored inside of Microsoft 365. And the other two are how tasks get surfaced up. So one is giving you the ability to view, the first two give you the ability to store your tasks, and the other two give you the ability to view tasks from other areas with that. So starting with Planner, which I hope you're all using now. If not, I hope you'll all take a look at it after today. You have really what are team-based tasks that can be assigned to individuals. So, your planners are really around your teams. And through there, you get your standard Kanban boards with it and the ability to split tasks out into different buckets and drag and drop them across buckets, as well as you get a capability to have a dashboard for your overall plan that has, some additional schedule, has the schedule view of it so that you can see it on a timeline, and charts for viewing things like the number of tasks that are in progress versus tasks that are complete versus tasks that haven't been started. You've got the charting capability, gives you multiple ways of viewing those. So Just a quick look at this. This is the planner board itself. And just going through, you can create a, wow, that's fast. You can go through and create a new task. You can assign a checklist of items. So if you ever have a task that has, I'll call them subtasks, but there's a list of things that need to be done in order to get that task completed, you can go inside of here and you can build out that checklist of tasks. And then you can basically show it on the card inside of Planner, so that you can see all of the items that need to be completed. And from that card back on the initial screen there, you can check each one off individually and complete it. But you can see you have here the bucket that's defined, the status of the request, the priority, as well as the start and end dates. And then, well, you can add attachments to it. But one of the things I love with this is the commenting capability on it, because as you add comments, you can then send them back to the person that initially submitted this request. So if you're the person that's assigned to work on it and Jane Doe submitted it, you can add comments in here and send those comments back to Jane Doe. Well, when Jane gets that message, which comes as an email message, she can then reply to that and send a message back to you, which automatically gets appended into the comment section here. So instead of having your conversation spread out all over, whether it's Teams or email and everything, all of your communications that are associated with this specific task can be retained within this one area. So if you have somebody that's on vacation, the person that's filling in for them can open the task and see all of the communications in a single location. So I think that's a great capability with this. The other thing that I like about the planner tasks in this case and the planner board itself is, a lot of times you'll have to, if there's a couple different ways to update the status on a task. And if you have your buckets defined as your status, you can then drag and drop them across from one bucket to another, and that bucket field will automatically get updated as to where you are within that progress for that task. And instead of like having to open the task individually, so then you got to click on it, you got to change the value, then you got to click again to save it. Just by dragging and dropping it from one bucket to another bucket on the planner board, it'll automatically update that field for you. So take a look at that. And then also the categories on here is another thing that we use very often. And these different color tabs are basically indicate a different category. And you can set your categories to be whatever makes sense for you. Sometimes maybe you'll have a request type field that's associated with the task. And you can define each of those, the tabs on the right-hand side there, and give each of them a name based on the request type that you receive. So it gives you another way to categorize your tasks and then view your tasks as you get into some of the reports and all on it. So that's a quick look at those. So Microsoft Lists has the capability, it has a whole new set of list templates that I'll show you in a second. But it adds a much more user-friendly view to lists. One of the things that it's adding in is the capability to have like pill-shaped buttons in your lists. And there's just a lot of capabilities in there. They're very customizable. You can have lists for teams, personal lists, and you can have all the type of views that you would typically have with a SharePoint list. All of that functionality is still there, and Microsoft is bringing this into Microsoft Lists. Now, Microsoft Lists is a separate app similar to Planner and ToDo and Teams, really. I mean, they're all separate apps. So you don't have to use lists inside of Teams. You can go to lists directly. You can actually get to lists, well, depending on your environment, a lot of companies, Microsoft's already in the process of deploying Microsoft lists. So the tenant that I have for Microsoft 365 already has lists in it. One way to test for you to see if it's there or not is to go to OneDrive, and in your URL, when you get to your OneDrive.aspx page, just change OneDrive to list.aspx, and it should come up at that point. Even if you don't see it under your apps that are listed, most of the companies that I've worked with already, actually the Microsoft list capability is already in the environment. And that depends really on where you're at in the rollout process. Microsoft has tiers that they go through to do these deployments, but it seems like most of the companies have that now. So anyway, that's new functionality. So let me just show you a quick look at that. So these are the templates that are there in terms of, well, some of them are these templates, but some of them are actually lists, but you have an asset tracker, you have issues, you have events. There's all types of templates for that. And the one down, the green one in the left corner is a request tracking. And so from here, you can create a new list from a blank list and just, build out the list and customize it. You can create it from Excel, or you can create it from an existing list, or you can specify one of the templates at the bottom. And from that, you basically go through and that will actually create the list for you. And then this is a look at a list and, that's been populated. So sorry, that went through pretty quick too. But you could see the pill shaped and colors applied to those different items. And again, it gives you a way to categorize and make your list just more user-friendly from a viewing perspective. So this capability of lists, you'll have the capability to surface that up inside of Teams. And that's coming, I believe, in September for everyone. So Microsoft ToDo. Microsoft ToDo is really personal task management. It gives you the capability to set, personal reminders for yourself and to be able to track them. It's got a nasty cool mobile app that I use all the time for things like I need to do on my house and stuff like that. I just real quick, I build out lists of the items and, based on the dates that I have assigned to them for when I want to get them, it'll tell me when I first go in there, this is the stuff that you need to be working on today to keep your progress going. So whatever, your task items are, you can show them in there. And there is if you go under the apps section on, now this is outside of Teams at this point, but in that upper left-hand corner, the tile, drop that down under apps, there'll be the Microsoft ToDo app in there, and you can get to it through your browser interface, or you can download the mobile app to your phone and get to it that way. And I think the mobile app is cool, but within that, you can see any types of lists that you have that are created. You can see your planner tasks, and ToDo does the work of replacing Outlook task management essentially, and will show you any flagged emails that you have. So because it's pulling them from Outlook, then when we get to the point that we'll talk about tasks in Teams, which I think is next, it actually surfaces up both your personal tasks and your planner tasks, your team tasks, into a single view inside of Teams. But this is just a quick look at the mobile app and, a view into just being able to see what your day is like. You can favorite items, you can mark them, just check them, mark them as being completed, and be able to categorize them and view them in different ways and do that all on your phone. And it's just a really quick way of keeping track of daily tasks for everyone. So I've become a to-do addict when it comes to task management for myself. So take a look at that app. that is available today and is all there. Now, tasks and teams. So tasks and teams in some ways is there today because tasks and teams under the covers is Planner. And what Microsoft is doing as they roll it out, you're going to see it goes through, it's actually going to go through three stages, I'll call them. One, what you have there now, which is called Planner. The next stage that's going to happen, and my understanding is by the end of the month, we should start seeing it in some tenants anyway. And I believe it's all supposed to be rolled out by the end of September. It'll go to what's called tasks in Teams. And it's Microsoft just renaming the Planner to tasks in Teams. And from my understanding, there's not a whole lot more functionality into it at that stage. But then the next version of it's coming, and they will basically rename it from tasks in Teams to just straight tasks. And it's another app called Microsoft Tasks that's coming that will be surfaced up in there and will give you all of those capabilities to manage across, to view your tasks, whether, they're to-do tasks, they're planner tasks, they're, flagged Outlook emails. You'll be able to view all of that inside of Teams. And I think I have a screenshot of it here. Yeah. So like on the left-hand side here, you can see, the way these items are categorized in both your personal, your recent, your Teams tasks. So that, down at the bottom, okay, I've got 15 departmental level tasks. I've got 6 open tickets that are waiting for me. I've got 5 personal tasks. So it just groups them real quickly on the left-hand navigation there. But then on the right side, I can see all the details about my tasks. And this is all the view that you're going to have inside of Teams. So just to kind of put some focus on that. So that's the end of the second section. Section. So should I just go? I think I should just go through the remaining at this section, and then we'll stop and do questions at that point.
Yeah, let's move forward. We do have a few questions, but we'll collect all of them at the end.
Yeah, I can hang around as long as necessary afterwards to handle questions if anybody wants to hang in. So organizing your teams and projects. So first of all, teams, it's a collection of people, content surrounding different types of projects. And then inside of that, you have your channels, which are broken down to really help narrow the focus of conversations and content within a team. So you can also add in tabs and all for each of your channels and extend them, but it gives you a way to further help people focus on the conversations that they need to have without being hit with all the noise that's across the, if everybody's putting everything into the general channel, by going down into a channel, the general channel, by defining an additional channel, you can start focusing those conversations and the content around those areas. So I'll show you the way I typically lay things out for projects in one of these next screens, but that's, we're talking about teams and channels specifically. So here's some guidelines from Microsoft in terms of what Teams is capable of. I mean, you can literally have 500,000 teams in an organization. You can have up to 200 channels per team. I'm going to stop right there and say, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do it. I think I mentioned earlier, I kind of try and keep channels at least under 10 and really between 5 and 7 with my teams at 3 to 5, at least in terms of what I'm showing. And I find that once you get beyond at least 10, it becomes it becomes too abstracted at that point. So try and keep your teams really in range of like 5 to 7 is what I found works best. So, you can have a ton of, 30 private channels, you can have 250, users, the number of teams a user can create. Anyway, so you can read through the numbers, and you can see it's huge. So one thing that I want to point out is, in terms of org-wide teams, the number's really small. There's only 5 teams that you can create to go across your entire organization. So use those wisely. So I'm going to start from there. I'm just going to say what don't do. One, don't create a lot of teams with the same members. It's another thing that I see, people think about content and they're like, okay, well, I have sales and it's got these 7 members in it, so I'm going to create a sales team. And oh, by the way, I'm going to create, we need marketing, so I'm going to create a marketing team, and it's those same 7 members. Don't do that. If you've got the same members in it, it's a single team, and then use your channels to break it out. So in that case, maybe, and again, I got something I'll show you in a second about your processes. The team name becomes customer acquisition, and your channels are sales and marketing. And that way you can become more granular in the way of how you're defining the content and the conversations, because marketing conversations are definitely different than sales conversations, but they're both customer acquisition related. So let's see. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Crawl before you walk, before you run. I'm going to say it again. Start by crawling, then walk, then run. Too many organizations, and maybe it's related to the world that we live in today with what happened with COVID. So many companies were thrown onto teams that people were forced into a situation where they needed to run with it. But I usually recommend the companies start slowly and limit who can create their teams, and to basically define and establish a process for requesting teams and a provisioning process behind it, and then restrict who can actually create teams through the interface. So, you have a form that somebody goes through and provides the information about the team, and then you have a process that's created through Power Automate that actually provisions those teams. So it gives you a lot more control as an organization around them to manage the creation of teams and all, and then overall the number of teams that you have in the company. Minimize the number of teams that you have. Based on your organization, it's going to be, some companies 10 teams is going to be enough. Other ones you may need 100 or 200 teams, but it's going to depend on the size of the organization. So I don't want to put a number on it other than just say to minimize it. Use channels to focus your content and discussions, and use private channels when you need to restrict something like access to a file. That's an indication that it's probably should live in a private channel. So get it out of like your files under your general channel, create a private channel, and put that content that needs to be restricted, or those conversations that need to be restricted, into that private channel. All right, so I'm a big believer in defining teams around cross-organization business processes, and projects are one of them. Most projects touch, all areas or many areas of an organization. It's not an IT project. It's not a marketing project. You've got people from all different areas involved in it. So don't set up an IT site and then invite, marketing people into it. Set up an employee onboarding, and now your team members for employee onboarding are, yes, there's IT that are part of it. Yes, there's HR that's part of it, and whatever other areas of your business. And then define channels if you need to break it down further inside of that. So when you define your teams, think of it either as associate them with a project or associate them with a business process first. Once you have that kind of established, you're going to find that you're still going to have, there's going to be a sales group somewhere that needs a team for their own internal private communications, and you will create other teams. But when you define it this way with your business processes first, most of those communications move into this team, as opposed to trying to do the other way around and bring things like, HR people into a sales team. So overall, the impact that it has, it'll limit the number of teams that you have across your organization if you start with this model. So for your general channel, it's your overview area. So think about, any type of information that you want. For example, you have a new team member that's coming on to that project, and you want them to see first. So things like policies and procedures belong there. I usually remove the wiki also off of that, because wikis aren't searchable. So, and replace it with a OneNote file. So any type of notes, your notebook is available there. I mentioned the website tab for your SharePoint site. Put that up there. These are some of the things that you would find there to keep at that top level. From a project perspective, any type of dashboards, status reporting, plans, that's all at that top level in that general channel. And then you get down below that and go further. I mentioned private channels to restrict access. I'm not going to go further into that. Channel naming. Honestly, I've seen different companies do it different ways. And the thing that I would tell you is you have to define what works for you inside of your team. Pull your team together, create a poll inside of your team, and ask them what channels make sense logically within that team. So is it a requirements gathering, design, development, testing? What is those channels that are defined? There is no right or wrong answer to that, other than, does it make sense to the people that are within the team? All right, so I'm going to spin through this. The other thing is with projects specifically, a lot of times companies will go through and they'll build out a project. They run through that whole thing, and then next time they go and do it, they have to recreate everything. Well, you don't. First, templates are coming soon for it, so you can templatize it, although that's not there today. What you can do today is copy a team to create a new team. And part of copying it, you go through and you basically, the normal process, you create a team, you select create from on this screen, you select team, then you select the team that you actually want to copy. So you can see one of the ones that I have here at the bottom is sales team template. So, project management, I run the same way. I create a project template from one of my teams in the past. I save that. And then going forward, when I create a new team for a project, it gets created off of that template. And that's how I build out my team. So when you do that, what happens is you get all of your channels come across and all of your tabs inside of your channels. Now, with the one exception, private channels do not come over when you copy from an existing template site. The other thing is, so that's going to bring the structure over for you into your new site. So if you got 100 project sites you got to create, it gives you a much better way of creating those as opposed to doing each one manually, and you can have a standard look and feel to it. Some of the tabs though, like if you had a planner in there, that'll be disconnected. It'll say planner or whatever you had the tab named, but it won't be connected to the actual planner file. When you create the new site, you'll need to go in and select the appropriate planner file to associate it with. So anyway, so the copy of team, go out and just the last couple things here, just in terms of this, to help drive adoption within your team, or sorry, to help drive adoption within your enterprise, depending on where you're at within the life cycle of Teams. And Teams has a maturity model just like SharePoint had. Start by building out showcase sites. Don't try and boil the ocean. run some basic pilots with it, identify things that are low-hanging fruit that have value back to your organization. Just start solving small problems with it and get started that way. It goes back to that, to crawl, then walk, then run. And then that helps. Having those showcase sites gives you a way to take them to other areas of the business and say, look, this is what Teams is. This is how it can be used. This is how another area is doing it. So just to summarize, my top 7 productivity tips for Teams. We covered planner teams and lists and to-do for enhanced collaboration. And we covered some tips around organizing your projects and teams. So with that, that's everything that I have. So Prasanna, is there questions?
Yes, there are a few. So the first question is, has ToDo been fully released? My Teams today has given the alert that ToDo is coming.
So I guess it means the answer depends on what you mean by fully released. So ToDo has been an application on the Microsoft 365 platform and available for a while now. So yes, it's fully released in that sense. Some of the functionality that I talked about is coming functionality. And I believe there's some significant updates to ToDo that are coming within the next month or 2.
Okay. The other question is, does the total team number include archived teams?
Archived in the sense of just hidden.
I think so. That's
yes.
Okay.
I mean, so if you're asking about, if the question is about the number of teams that you can have overall within the environment, so like, how many teams can a user create? The 200. If you have teams hidden, yes, that's absolutely part of that 200.
All right. Is sticky notes incorporated into Teams?
No.
All right, cool. Okay, so more questions. Then can I pull Planner in an existing channel to the left side? I think
no.
it's at the team level.
Yeah. So Planner inside of, so one thing, you can access Planner directly, but the app that goes on the left-hand side there is a specific view of Planner, in that it gives you the capability to view across all of your Planner boards. Once you're inside of a team or a channel, that Planner board is specific to that channel. So if you go look at them, they're different.
Okay. All right. So Russ, let me do this. Let me share my screen and give people the PMI code.
Sure.
And then we'll continue answering questions for people who still want to hang on.
Okay, right back at you.
Right, so that's the PDO code for you folks who have to jump off. And we will also send this through email in a couple of days. If you don't get this, that's fine. Yeah, it will be ready there for you.
Thank you all for joining. I greatly appreciate it.
All right. So Russ, the last question: how do you remove an item from the left navigation bar? The option says uninstall. I'm a little concerned about selecting that. I don't want to be uninstalling apps from my machine.
It's not uninstalling it from your machine. It's just removing it from the left nav, that left rail.
Okay.
It'll show up under apps again.
All right. Any plans to include tasks from Project Online or Project for Web into team tasks? I can help answer this, Russ.
Answer that question.
Yeah. So John, the answer is yes. Project Online, no. Project for Web, yes. I think Microsoft talked about it in their release article for Project for Web. When and how, we don't know yet. All right. So I think that's all with the questions. There was a great suggestion from Diane that it would be awesome if we can do another session where we actually go through the sequence of steps to set up a project team and set up all the bells and whistles that go along with it.
Okay.
So
yeah, I'd be happy to come back and do that. Absolutely.
All right. So we can talk about that. All right. That's all, Russ. So thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
I'm getting a lot of comments now saying it was very informative and very useful. So
Good.
Great job. And thank you so much.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.